What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Comics League. I'm Jared, and today I'm going to argue why I think that DC is better than Marvel. Now, before I do that, I just want to say that the channel recently passed 100 subscribers, and honestly, for this channel, that's like a really big milestone because it's like those of you that have been with us since the beginning, you'll know that like a couple of months ago, we were stuck on like, what was it, 32 subscribers, 32. And then the minute we started doing collaborations with guys like Wes, guys like Max, guys like Nerdman, and so on and so forth. That's when we really started to grow. So, for those of you that hopped on, joined a hell of a channel. So just a way of saying thank you for subscribing, and hope you guys enjoy our content. So anyway, now what I'm about to, this video is purely subjective. Drop in the comments what you think maybe Marvel's better or some points that I don't mention. But I think the chief reason why I think DC is the superior comic book publishing, but the comic book world, as compared to Marvel, because of the grand scale nature of it, because DC is very much that gods amongst men, gods amongst men like concept, if you will. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so let me, the way Marvel does it, and this is not a ding against Marvel, that's their own thing. They do very grounded superheroes, guys that are like Captain America or like the Hulk. They're grounded in that they got their powers through like some scientific means. DC does it where they get their powers through like some scientific, some of them like completely unscientific means, like Wonder Woman. But it's the point where DC's characters are so like God tier powered, except for Batman, but you can argue his intellect is God tier. So they're very much like, and it's interesting how DC has never really done an epic event where the Justice League went toward the Greek gods, because really the Justice League are just the modern day version of the Greek gods. In fact, I'm waiting for that to be a crisis or like some type of massive event where the Greek gods grow jealous of the love and adoration that the League gets. Then they go to war with the Justice League. That'd be so great. Anyway, you have these characters like Superman, who has the powers of a god, Wonder Woman, who has the powers of a goddess, and a few times she's been a goddess. And yet they maintain that altruistic tendency. And that's one of the like most endearing things about DC, because you always hear absolute power corrupts absolutely, but you have these beings that are absolutely powerful. But mainline DC, that is, I have to put that on there. Mainline DC, they've always been good. They've never gone evil. They've always been like these beacons of virtue. So I think that particular point of DC is like very fascinating, at least to me, because I'm a student of Greek myth. I love all those storylines. And when you think about it, comic books in general are our version of mythology. It's our modern day mythology. So I sort of like that interplay. And between the two, since I have such a deep connection to Greek mythology, that's one of the reasons why I tend to lean more toward DC, because I like those like god tier powerful characters that are not perfect beings, that make mistakes, but always end up on top and being the good guys. That's my chief reason. Second reason is that I think the characters are more compelling. Because, yeah, you've got great characters like Captain America, Spider-Man, but what's interesting about a character named like Batman, he has no powers, yet he is often the leader of a group of beings that have god tier powers. That itself, I know a lot of my stuff is Justice League related, but that's just because it's like my favorite book from DC. My favorite like comic series of all time from DC, whether or not that's Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Brian Hitch, all the different Justice League runs I love. But my point is that take Batman. He has no powers, but yet is so powerful that he doesn't really feel out of place among the Justice League. We have beings like Superman, who gets God tier powers from the sun, is nearly invulnerable. Wonder Woman, nearly invulnerable. Flash can run back in time. Green Lantern, a ring that can manifest anything you can imagine. So my point is that Batman belongs in that group. That is really, really cool. That's the fact. I like the whole how Batman's villains are basically different components of his psyche. And I've always felt that was like a more interesting way to play off the villains. Spider-Man still has great villains, but I prefer Batman stuff. Then you have Superman, who, like I said before, will always do the right thing, even though he's like the super tier God character. He will always do the right thing and help. And those are my two examples for the characters. If you guys have any ideas of other characters that you think make DC better than Marvel, or some Marvel characters that are great that I'm forgetting, drop them in the comments. Also, I think DC has better movies. Yes, I will say that. The Snyder movies, because here's why. The MCU movies after Guardians of the Galaxy became the same thing over and over and over again. Flashy CGI battles, jokey humor and such. Where with the Snyder movies, they actually challenged the status quo of what superheroes are. You had characters like Batman, Batman and Superman evolving and trying to find their place in the world, and then making mistakes, but always rising above those mistakes. And some of them lost their way because you see like Superman falling to Darkseid, Batman killing people. So my point is that the storylines are more complicated and less simplistic at times than the MCU. Now, there are some DC movies that are terrible, like Birds of Prey. I'm saying for the most part, DC has better movies, both live action and animated. Granted, recently the animation has been at least on par, if not subpar, because of, let's see, what was it? Injustice sort of crammed a lot of DC in there, so crammed a lot of the storyline in there, so that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But my point is that for the most part, DC has better animated movies. DC has better games. DC has better merch because Aquaman's Trident. There's just any number of reasons that I can. Plus, DC, when you think of, think about it this way: when you think of famous comic book storylines, which one do you think of more, DC or Marvel? Because with DC, you have Infinite Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths. You have Watchmen, you have Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, you have Kingdom Come, you have The Death of Superman, you have Superman Doomed. There's like, I can wall off a list of books. Marvel, okay, House of X, Powers of 10, Civil War, Siege. And that's really all I can do in terms of storylines that are universally beloved. Now, I'm aware that it's super subjective, and you Marvel fans can drop me a comment here. And you DC fans can also drop me a link into what DC books I missed that you think should be in my list. So that's really where I'm going. That's really where I'm going off of, and why I think DC is better than Marvel. Let me know what you guys think of my arguments, and present some of your own. I'm always willing to change my mind. And once again, thank you for 100 subscribers. I look forward to interacting with you guys in the comments section. All right, stay at work, everyone. Bye-bye.